Hi everyone, welcome to my sewing studio. Today I have two sleeveless tank patterns for you with some wonderful special details. Now, if you're new here, welcome. I am Lisa from Pink Holly Bush Designs, where we talk all things sewing and smocking. And I love a pattern that has unique and special details. You can go buy the basic t-shirt at the store, but sewing lets you put your own special touch on something. So today I have two, as I said, sleeveless tank patterns. Adding special details to a tank pattern can be a little tricky. There's not a whole lot to work with. But I have two grown daughters, and they both love a great tank pattern. They live in areas where the climate is hot in the summer, and they're in the office with the AC going. So a sleeveless top is great for the office. They have a sweater while they're inside in the air conditioning, and it's comfortable to wear because it's sleeveless. Yeah, when they go outside at lunch, you know, they're not sweltering. So they're always asking me if I can sew them another great tank or sleeveless top. And as I said, finding those can be hard. So I have two for you today, one that uses knit, one that uses woven, so and has some really great details. So let's talk tanks. So the first one is the Itch to Stitch Sentosa Tank, and this is a new pattern that has just come out in the last few weeks, and it has just this great asymmetrical neckline with those neat stitched down pleat detail coming off of the neckline. Now the Sentosa Tank, as I said, is made for knits. It comes in sizes 0 to 40, so really nice size range, and it has two different bust options, so you really can get a great fit with this pattern. Now, for what particular knits to choose, the pattern recommends using a lightweight knit. I made it up in a medium weight cotton knit, partly because I had it and partly because it's my daughter's color. But I would not go any heavier than that. Another thing to note about this pattern is the neckline is finished with facings. And so because I was using that little bit heavier fabric, I used power mesh for the facings rather than using the same fabric for the facings, and that was a great option. So I will put a link to the power mesh below, but if you are going to make this with a little bit thicker knit, that would be a great choice to use for the facings. Okay, let's see what else I have here. I recommend using making this tank up in a solid rather than a print. And again, if you know me, that's kind of a funny recommendation. I am a print gal through and through. But this particular pattern, if you look at some of the ones that are on the Itch to Stitch website, they all turned out beautifully, but you really kind of lose the detail of the pleats when it's made up in a print. And since I really think that's such a lovely detail, I hate to lose that. In fact, I actually, when you top stitch the pleats down, that's part of the directions in the pattern. And when I did that, I even went with even a darker thread to just emphasize that detail a little bit more. Now I'm fit for this pattern. I will tell you that when I made it up for my daughter, I ended up lowering the neckline by about an inch, and also lowering the armholes by about an inch. So you might want to just do a real quick muslin before you do the whole thing to make sure you know if you are going to want those adjustments. Okay, the second tank pattern I have for you is the Breezy Blouse by Liesl & Co. Now, I have made a couple of these because my other daughter loves it so much. Now, the Breezy Blouse is designed for a woven fabric, and it comes in sizes 0 to 20, and it has cup sizes. So again, you can get a great fit with this pattern. Now, the ideal fabric for this, I would say, is rayon or viscose. That is what I use for both of them. It just works great when you have a nice drape to it. But a lightweight cotton, something with a little bit more drape. I wouldn't use a quilting cotton, but you know, a nice broadcloth lawn, certainly those would be beautiful with this pattern as well. Now, in finishing this pattern, a couple things to note. So what makes this pattern unique, that it's not just a tank, is it has side panels, and that's where you really can have fun. So this pattern is the perfect pattern if you want to play with stripes. So in the one I made with the stripes, what I did was I turned the side panels so I had the stripes running horizontally, and then for the finish on both the neckline and the armholes, rather than turning the binding to the inside as the pattern directs, I had the binding come to the outside. So again, you would see those stripes going on the bias. Now I have a whole blog post that shows you how I did that, and the link will be down in that as well. Speaking of the bindings, when I finished the bindings, I also used the French binding technique rather than the binding technique that's explained in the pattern. The binding technique explained in the pattern has you kind of folding it and then folding it again, and I just found, especially with the rayon, it's just too floppy and you don't have the control you need. So the French binding technique, which uses a double binding, just really makes it easier to get a really nice and clean finish. Again, in that blog post I tell you how to do it, but I also have a video showing you exactly how I did that on a different top that I made, and I will link to it up above so you can go over and check that out. The blog post that I mentioned also has some great tips on how to work with rayon. If you're a little hesitant about that, don't be. It's not a scary fabric. You just have to use a couple good notions and make sure you control it, and it will go together without any problems. So again, for the Breezy Blouse, try it with a stripe fabric, because that really will show off some of the special design features. If you want to do a print or a solid, that would be great. Another fun option would be to color block this. So you could make those side panels with a contrasting solid color, and then you could do the binding to the outside as I did with the stripes, and you could carry that color as well. If you don't want it on the neckline, you can turn the binding to the inside. There's just so many possibilities. So I hope that you will give one of these two patterns a try. Let me know in the comments if you do, and how it worked for you. And if you don't know of another great tank pattern that has some special details, I would love to know about that, because I'm sure my daughters would like another one. So I hope you give this a try, and happy sewing.